hangar bay of the Relentless felt less like a starship and more like a floating foundry. It was a cavern of oil-slicked steel and the rhythmic, percussive thud of heavy pistons. Outside the open atmospheric vents, the jungle of Harrow's Reach was a vast, suffocating sea of emerald, exhaling a hot, wet mist that crawled across the floor of the bay. In the center of the gloom stood the Titans, the VII Iron-Clads. They were 40-foot monuments of scorched ceramic and blackened iron, held together by high tensile bolts and the stubbornness of the humans who piloted them.
Stone! Get your internal comms checked! I've got a hairline fracture in the left knee actuator of your unit. If you try a lateral thruster burn during the drop, that leg is gonna snap like a dry twig. I'm serious! Stop treating this machine like it's a toy!
It's a tool sledge. Tools break when you use them to hit things, and we're about to hit the Luminants with everything we've got. Seal the plate and get to your station. The atmospheric window is closing.
Typical. You break 'em, I fix 'em. Just don't come crying to me when you're hobbling across a jungle floor with half a chassis.
Commander, the Luminant gravity nets are already fluctuating. They know something is coming. Their drones are swarming the LZ like silver flies. If the kinetic impact doesn't clear a path, we're dropping into a thermal pulse corridor. The math says our survival probability is trending toward a single digit, sir.
Vance, stop looking at the math and start looking at the altimeter. We aren't dropping for a probability. We're dropping for the ground. Ghost, you've got eyes on the spire?
Confirmed, boss. The Luminant spire is glowing. They're charging the primary beam. It looks like a long, thin needle in the dark. I've mapped the blind spots. They think their drones see everything. They're about to be disappointed.
Hey Vance, look on the bright side. If we hit the ground hard enough, we'll be moving too fast for the Mac to catch up with us. Boss, my heat sinks are green. I'm ready to make some noise. Let's show these chrome domes what a 50-ton obsolete biological looks like.
Lock your pods. Check your seals. We are the Iron-Clad, and the world is waiting for us to fall. Drop in 5, 4, 3.
The pods weren't flying. They were falling with intent. The atmosphere of Harrow's Reach fought back with a screaming friction that turned the outer tungsten shells into cherry-red heat shields. Inside the cramped cockpits of the VII Titans, the Scrap-Heap crew was being crushed into their seats by 5 Gs of sustained pressure. The cabin lights flickered a sickly amber, reflecting off the sweat and grime of 5 humans who were gambling their lives on the strength of antique hydraulics and sheer luck.
Steady your breathing. We're passing the 70-kilometer mark. The gravity nets are starting to pull. If your stomach is in your throat, leave it there. We have work to do.
Commander, the drag coefficients are impossible. The Luminant gravity net is dragging us 12 degrees off the target vector. If we don't adjust, we're going to overshoot the spire and bury ourselves in a tectonic fault line. My screens are bleeding red, sir. Everything is red.
Vance, shut up and look at your pressure gauges. Stone, if you touch those lateral thrusters to correct the vector, I will personally strip your rank. Those knee actuators are already screaming under the heat load. If you fire them now, the legs will shear off before we even hit the canopy.
I hear you, Chief. We're going to ride the net. We'll use their own gravity to accelerate. If we hit fast enough, the shockwave will do half our job for us. Ghost, give me the drone count.
They've launched the second wave. Hundreds of silver discs are rising from the canopy. They think they're intercepting a landing craft. They haven't realized yet that we're the projectiles. I've slaved the pod's automated point defenses to my HUD. I'll clear a hole.
I can see them. The drones look like sparks against the green. Boss, the heat is melting the outer sensor array. I'm flying blind on the left side. Just tell me when to pull the emergency release.
Hold it, Rook. Wait for the thud. We're hitting the canopy in 10 seconds. Brace for a kinetic impact. This is the part where the ground says hello.
The pod slammed into the jungle at terminal velocity. The sound wasn't an explosion. It was a rhythmic, bone-deep thud that flattened every tree within 3 kilometers. The tungsten shells buried themselves 20 feet into the mud, the heat of the friction turning the surrounding earth into jagged obsidian. For a heartbeat, there was only the sound of cooling metal and the hiss of scorched jungle vines. Then, the explosive bolts fired.
Scrap-Heap. Report. If you can breathe, you can fight.
I'm alive. And I think I just set a record for the shortest flight in human history. My Titan is upright, but I've got a mud-clogged exhaust port.
The actuators held. Barely. Stone, if you ever do that again, I'm retiring. I'm serious. Get those Titans out of the dirt. we've got visitors.
From the smoking craters, the massive iron forms of the Titans rose. They stood among the shattered remains of the jungle, their white ceramic plates blackened by fire, their hydraulic limbs hissing with steam. Above them, the silver drones of the Luminants began to circle, their cold blue lights reflecting off the unyielding iron of the Scrap-Heap crew. The fall was over. The fight had begun. The steaming craters of the impact zone were silent for only a moment. The 4 Mk7 Titans stood half-buried in the churned earth, their ceramic armor clicking loudly as it began to cool in the humid jungle air. Above them, the Luminant drones broke their holding pattern. They were sleek, chrome discs, silent and elegant, hovering just above the tray line. They didn't recognize the Titans as threats. To their senses, these massive iron forms were just wreckage, until the wreckage started moving.
Commander, the drones are shifting spectrums. They're locking onto our reactor signatures. They know we're active. My threat wordings are lighting up the entire cockpit. They're powering up their primary pulse beams.
Let them lock on. They need to be close for what happens next. Sledge, how's your hull integrity?
My integrity is fine, Stone. It's my paint job I'm worried about. I spent 3 days applying that thermal coating, and these chrome-plated frisbees are about to ruin it. Permission to introduce them to my rotary cannon?
Hold your fire, Chief. They're converging on Rook's position. They think he's the weakest signal. They're about to find out why we reinforced the frontal plating on the Unit 4.
The drones fired in unison. It was a high-pitched shriek of focused light. Dozens of blue pulse beams slammed into Rook's Titan. The beams were designed to slice through advanced composites, but against the brute thickness of the Titan's ablative armor, they just splashed like water on hot grease. The ceramic plates glowed cherry red, absorbing the thermal shock, but the iron underneath didn't budge.
Whoa, it's getting hot in here. My temperature gauges are spiking, boss. It feels like I'm sitting inside a toaster. They're really laying into me. Can I shoot back now? Please tell me I can shoot back now.
Rook, vent your heat sinks into the surrounding mud. Let's make some steam. Scrap-Heap, free weapons. Spin up the sledge cannons. Turn that chrome into confetti.
The jungle was suddenly filled with the terrifying mechanical whine of rotary cannons spinning up to speed. The massive, multi-barreled weapons mounted on the Titan's arms blurred into motion. When they fired, it sounded like the sky was tearing apart. These weren't elegant energy weapons. They were spitting tungsten-cored slugs the size of soda cans at 3,000 rounds per minute.
Yeah! Chew on that, you shiny little pests. That's 50 millimeters of human engineering right there. Look at them pop. They can't handle the kinetic load.
Targeting Vector 3-9. 2 drones drifting left. Correcting aim. Scratch 2. Shifting fire to the tree line. They're trying to flank us. Rook, watch your 9 o'clock.
I see him, Ghost. Bring in the rain. Haha! This is way better than the simulator. You see that one? I cut it in half.
The roaring thunder of the cannons ceased as quickly as it had begun. The air was thick with the smell of cordite and pulverized vegetation. The chrome drones were gone, replaced by twisted fragments of silver metal raining down into the mud. The Titans stood amidst the carnage, smoke curling from their steaming barrels. The jungle was silent again, save for the heavy mechanical breathing of the iron giants.
Clear your jams. Check your ammo feed. That was just the welcoming committee. The spire is 5 clicks north through the thickest part of this soup. Put one foot in front of the other, Scrap-Heap. We have a long walk ahead of us.
The jungle of Harrow's Reach was no longer just a backdrop. It had become an active combatant. The Titans moved with a staggering heavy rhythm, their massive feet sinking 3 feet deep into the prehistoric muck with every step. Above them, the canopy was a tangled roof of bioluminescent vines that bled thick, corrosive sap whenever a mechanical shoulder brushed against them. The air was a wall of wet heat, so thick that the Titan's external cooling fans were beginning to scream, struggling to move the human soup through their radiator fins.
Commander, the ambient humidity is at 99%. The heat exchange efficiency is dropped by 40 points. If we don't slow down, the reactor cores are going to reach critical thermal mass. We're literally cooking inside these tin cans. My internal sensors are already showing a 5-degree rise in cockpit temperature. I can feel the soles of my boots softening, sir.
Vance, if I hear one more word about your boots, I'm going to bypass your internal cooling and see how you like it. Stone, he's right about the strain, though. I can hear the servos in your left hip actuator grinding against the grit. This mud is like liquid sandpaper. We're losing lubrication with every mile. If that joint seizes, you're a 40-foot paperweight.
We aren't stopping. Every minute we spend idling in this swamp is a minute the Luminants use to recalibrate their gravity nets. We push through. Sledge, keep a manual override on the hip joint. If it sticks, force it. Ghost, what's the path ahead looking like?
The terrain is shifting. The ground is getting harder as we approach the spire's foundation. But the interference is getting worse. My long-range scans are hitting a wall of white noise. It's a sensory blackout. They've turned the entire valley into a dead zone. I'm navigating by dead reckoning in the smell of ozone.
Is it just me? Or are the trees getting weirder? I swear I just saw a vine try to wrap itself around my sensor mast. Tell me I'm just hallucinating from the heat sledge. Tell me I'm crazy.
You're crazy, Rook, but the trees are definitely moving. The Luminants didn't just build the spire. They seeded this planet with bioengineered deterrents. They want to make the environment as hostile as possible. They didn't count on us being more stubborn than the dirt.
Eyes up. The fog is thinning. Vance, I need a ping on the spire's thermal signature. I don't care if the sensors are screaming. Find me a target.
I think I have it. There's a massive energy spike 3 degrees east. It's huge. It's drawing enough power to dim the stars. We're close, Commander. We're very close.
The Titans broke through a finer wall of massive prehistoric ferns. Ahead of them, the jungle opened into a vast, scorched clearing. In the center stood the Luminant spire, a needle of silver light that seemed to pierce the very heavens. It was beautiful, sterile, and cold. The Scrap-Heap crew stood at the edge of the clearing, their blackened, mud-caked machines a stark contrast to the alien elegance before them. The slog was over. The siege was about to begin. The Luminant spire stood in the center of the clearing like a jagged splinter of cold silver light. It didn't just pierce the sky, it seemed to be drinking from it. Around its base, the air shimmered with a pale blue distortion, the primary gravity shield. As the Titans emerged from the tree line, the spire's surface rippled. From the silver plating, the ground guardians emerged, sleek, multi-legged machines that moved with a terrifying liquid grace. They were the scalpel to the Titan sledgehammer.
Commander, the spire's intake is at maximum capacity. It's not just a beacon, it's a siphon. They're draining the thermal energy from the planet's core to jumpstart their fold space gate. If that spire stays active for another hour, Harrow's reach will turn into a frozen tomb. They're stealing our sun, sir. They're literally stealing the heat from our blood.
That's why we're here, Vance. The Luminants think the galaxy is a buffet, and we're just another course. They think they can leave our children to freeze in the dark because it's efficient. Scrap-Heap, listen up. We aren't fighting for a piece of dirt. We're fighting for the right to keep the lights on. We are the breaker for this circuit.
You heard the boss. I didn't spend 6 months in a grease pit just to watch the sun go out. I'm diverting all auxiliary power to the forward kinetic shields. Stone, you've got 30 seconds of pure invulnerability before the capacitors melt. Make them count!
Guardians are deploying gravity snares. They're trying to trip us up. Rook, take the left flank, distract the silver dogs. I'm going to paint the spire's primary cooling vent for a sledge cannon strike.
I'm on it! Hey, you chrome spiders, over here! Come and see what happens when you try to rob a Gen X veteran's retirement home. I'm venting steam. I'm loud. I'm healthy. Come and get some.
Rook's Titan charged into the clearing, its massive iron feet crushing the silver drones that tried to swarm its legs. The ground guardians fired their pulse beams, but the Titans didn't dodge. They leaned into the fire. The sound of the engagement was a symphony of destruction, the high-pitched scream of alien energy meeting the deep, guttural roar of human cannons.
Ghost, I've got the lock. Sledge, blow the limiters on the rotary arm. We're ending this conversation.
Commander Stone's Titan planted its feet, the hydraulic stabilizers burying themselves into the scorched earth. The sledge cannon roared to life, a continuous stream of fire that slammed into the spire's gravity shield. For a second, the shield held, and then it shattered like glass. The tungsten slugs tore into the silver plating, and for the first time in centuries, the Luminant spire felt the weight of human fury.
Shields are down. Scrap-Heap, move in. We're taking that needle out of our sky.
The base of the Luminant spire was an iris of silver metal, a geometric mouth that seemed to swallow the light of the jungle. As the Titans stepped across the threshold, the world of mud and vines vanished, replaced by a silent cathedral-like hall of polished chrome and humming energy. The air here was thin and smelled of liquid nitrogen, a sharp contrast to the humid rot outside. The temperature was already plummeting as the spire drew the lust of the world's warmth into its crystalline throat.
Commander, the external sensors are reporting a 20-degree drop in the surrounding valley. The frost is already killing the lower canopy. If the siphon reaches the tertiary stage, the atmosphere will solidify into dry ice before we can even reach the exit. We are walking into a cryogenic trap. My life support is struggling to keep the cockpit from icing over, sir.
Then keep your heaters running and your eyes on the core, Vance. We didn't come this far to be turned into ice sculptures. Sledge, how are the hydraulics handling the cold?
The fluid is thickening, Stone. I'm having to cycle the internal heaters every 30 seconds just to keep the joints from seizing. These Titans were built for the heat of a foundry, not the vacuum of space. If we don't finish this quickly, we're going to be frozen in place like monuments to our own stupidity. I'm seeing stress fractures in the external tubing.
The interior defenses are waking up. I'm seeing movement in the upper rafters. They look like glass needles floating on gravity cushions. They don't have armor, but they have speed. They're positioning themselves above Rook. It's an ambush.
Let them come. I'm already shivering so hard I can barely aim, so maybe a little action will warm me up. Hey, Ghost, I'm lighting up the ceiling. Tell me if I hit anything.
Rook's Titan let out a roar of fire as his rotary cannon sprayed the high arches of the ceiling. The glass-like defenders shattered, raining down like a diamond storm. The Titans pushed deeper, their iron feet clanging against the silver floor, leaving trails of black grease and mud on the sterile alien surface. They reached the heart of the spire, a massive, rotating sphere of pure white fire. This was the siphon, the engine that was killing Harrow's reach.
There it is, the throat of the beast. Vance, find the primary stabilization pillars. Sledge, I want the sledge cannon slave to my HUD. We're going to hit this thing until it stops breathing.
Copy that. I'm bypassing the safety limiters. If the blowback doesn't kill us, the explosion will. Stone, make sure you hit the center. I don't want to die for a near miss.
I never miss, Sledge. Scrap-Heap, hold the line. This is for the kids back on Terra Prime who want to see the sun tomorrow. Fire it well.
The room was suddenly consumed by the thunder of human weaponry. The Titans stood in a circle around the white fire, their cannons spitting tungsten fire into the heart of the alien engine. The silver walls began to walk, the sterile silence shattered by the sound of a world fighting to stay warm. The spire was no longer a monument of sterile elegance. It had become a dying god of silver and glass. As the core fractured under the weight of the Titan's kinetic fire, the gravity siphon reversed. The white fire that had been drinking the planet's heat began to bleed outward in violent, jagged arcs of electricity. The silver floor was buckling, the geometric walls groaning as the atmosphere of Harrow's reach rushed back in to fill the vacuum.
Scrap-Heap, the engine is broken. We have 3 minutes before the structural integrity of this needle hits zero. Turn those Titans around and run. Do not look back.
Commander, the gravity fields are collapsing. The weight of the ceiling is increasing by 300%. If we don't clear the iris in the next 60 seconds, we'll be crushed into the floor. My servos are redlining, sir. I can hear the frame bending.
Vance, keep moving. Stone, I'm dumping the reserve coolant into the actuators. You'll have a burst of speed, but your joints will be slagged by the time we hit the tray line. Use the thrusters. Don't worry about your energy.
The iris is closing. 5 silver guardians are attempting to block the exit. They're sacrificial units. They don't want us to leave. Rook, I'm painting the targets. Clear a path or we're staying here forever.
With pleasure. Out of the way, you crone toothpicks. I got 50 tons of iron in a very short fuse. Get some. Stone, I'm leading the charge. Follow the smoke.
The Titans thundered toward the closing iris. Rook's machine didn't slow down. It used its shoulder plating to smash through the glass guardians, turning them into glittering dust. Behind him, the spire began to implode, the silver structure folding in on itself like a dying star. The Titans leaped from the threshold just as the iris snapped shut, the shockwave of the implosion throwing the 50-ton machines into the mud of the jungle.
Report. Scrap-Heap. Is everyone clear?
I'm upright. My Titan is a total loss, Stone. The hydraulics are melted, but look at the sky.
The clouds above Harrow's reach were no longer gray and stagnant. The emerald jungle was exhaling, the mist beginning to rise as the natural heat of the planet's core stabilized. Far above the canopy, the first rays of the morning sun broke through the smog, catching the blackened, mud-caked armor of the 4 Titans. They stood in the wreckage of the clearing, broken, scorched, but unyielding.
The sun is still ours. Well done, Scrap-Heap. Let's head home.